Hello, everyone. Hello, political enthusiasts. My name is Eugene Kacherov, and this is my friend Jared Stein, and this is our first episode of our new show called The Roundup, the political polling podcast, where we do a deep dive into the statistics that surround our political backdrop in this heated political environment. And just a little background on myself. I've been into politics around ever since the 2016 election. I've been doing work with Republicans in the 2018 elections, the 2020 elections, and now even in the 2022 midterms. And I met my good friend Jared Stein back in 2020, right after the completely clean 2020 election. So here you go, Jared. Take it off from here.
And I'm Jared Stein, and I've been into politics since as long as I can remember. And, I've volunteered for Democrats in 2018, 2020, I've donated. I would call myself a partisan Democrat. My political views would be based on getting as many Democrats elected as possible. I think it's more important than anything to have Democrats in office and have them in the majority.
See, and that's where me and him differ, even in our partisanship, because I am not just for getting any Republican elected. Of course, I am a Republican. I am for getting the right Republicans. No rhinos allowed. And that's what I think. I don't know if there's a term like that for Democrats, like Dino. Democrat in name only.
All Republicans are very bad to have in power. And, I want at all costs to have as many Democrats in power, so Democrats will at least have the majority, control the floor. As long as a Democrat has the name of a Democrat, then a Republican's not going to have the majority.
Yeah.
As long as Democrats have more senators, or House members, all that matters is having the majority, being able to control the floor.
And I'm on the exact opposite page. Keep Democrats out of power at all costs. And we can just get together on our partisanship, can we, Jared? Exactly. And that's how we've maintained a friendship, is because we don't take these things too seriously. And I invited him for our show, and we hope you guys enjoy it. So we're going to be talking about the 2022 midterms. Of course, this being our first episode, we're going to give a quick roundup of all the things we are particularly interested, particularly Biden's approval rating, the generic ballot across both Real Clear Politics and the 538 averages of polling. And we're going to go over some competitive primaries that have been happening. Isn't that right, Jared?
Absolutely.
Okay. So a quick snapshot in today. Today is April 21st, 2022. Biden's approval on Real Clear Politics is at 41% and his disapproval is at 53.3%. So again, just to start off, what is your opinion on Real Clear Politics, Jared?
Real Clear Politics, I don't completely trust them because they take anything from anywhere. They like Trafalgar, I call them Trafalgar. There's Rasmussen, which, I don't think Rasmussen is even a legitimate pollster. I think they're, too into their conspiracy theories, and, they're just very not professional at all. And they affect their averages way too much. And,
yeah, they're zooming all over the place, man. They're just zooming left, zooming right. I don't even know
I don't even trust Rasmussen if they show Biden in a good position, because I think what they do is they say, this week, look how Biden's getting more popular. And then the next week they release, his approval just crashed.
What the heck?
I think they have a lot of manipulation going on with Rasmussen. And, Real Clear doesn't weigh him at all.
Yeah, they just weigh it. They just take an average of
everything.
Poll. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. Like, they weigh everything the same.
They don't grade them. And let's now switch to 538. Okay. So for the 538 approval of Joe Biden, we currently have it at 41.9%. So almost a point higher than we have on Real Clear Politics. Why do you think that is? Why do you think his approval is almost a point higher on
538? What they do is they have a house effect of polls. So if they determine that a pollster's right-wing biased, then they will adjust it points toward however many points they determine, towards the side that they're not biased towards.
Okay.
So they try to even out the biases in the pollsters.
Okay. And his disapproval on both websites seem relatively similar. Let's just snap back between those two real quick right now. His disapproval, oh no, it's actually also a point different. His disapproval is 52.6% on 538, and on Real Clear Politics, it is 53.3%. So we see another difference in the disapproval rating. So that's just a quick range. So do you agree to these poll numbers, Jared? Do you agree that Biden is somewhere in the low 40s range in approval and somewhere in the low 50s range in his disapproval?
Yeah, I think Biden may be that low, but I think a lot of it is due to the mainstream media, who's been, pretty terrible throughout the whole administration. I think the media, they really like trying to dive Biden's numbers down. They'll always show everything negative about but everything about Biden, they put it in a negative light. They don't show any of his positive accomplishments.
Sounds a lot like me from 4 years ago, huh, Jared?
4 years ago, what the media did was they think Trump, he was great for their coverage. Like they would get way more viewers by just having Trump there.
True.
And they wanted more Trump. So I think the media would try to make Trump more popular, and versus Biden, they try to make more unpopular.
So that was your take from the whole Trump administration, is that they tried to make him seem more popular?
They give him constant coverage, and they both sides everything. They make him, if he does extreme things,
good people on both sides. Remember?
Yeah, the media will both sides everything. They'll claim to be, they're not they're objective. They are objective, and so something that warrants that it shouldn't be treated as equally. They treat Republicans as equal, no matter how extreme they get.
Interesting.
So
wow.
I think the media plays a big part in how popular or unpopular the president is.
Well, I, of course, obviously disagree. I think the media complex is totally covering for Joe Biden's failures. The only time they even accurately covered any of his disappointing achievements, or should I say disappointing failures, was I think the Afghanistan pullout. I think that was the first time that the media, even though I think they should have been doing it from the beginning of his administration, but that was, we would both agree that was the first point in which Joe Biden's approval flipped. You would agree. It crossed. Like that. Just like that, like a big X.
This was very disappointing because pulling out of Afghanistan was and he did it very well. But all the media would talk about is how it's a catastrophe, all the chaos.
People jumping off planes.
Yeah, that's all the media would show, even if he got almost everybody out safely.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it was something that needed to be done, but he did it disastrously. He left billions of dollars of equipment. But again, we are not here to argue about politics. We are here to look at numbers, statistics, and come away with our own conclusions and debate about it. So now that we got his approval, you would agree that his approval is somewhere between 41, 42, and his disapproval is somewhere between 52 and 53. Would you agree somewhere? We both agree to that.
Yeah, that's the range that most polls have it.
Okay. So now let's go to the generic congressional ballot on Real Clear Politics, and we can compare it to 538. Okay, how about you talk about the polling for the generic ballot for us, Jared?
Well, the generic ballot is it's always been much closer than Biden's approval rating. Some people think that the president's approval will be about the same. It'll coincide with the generic ballot. If Biden's super unpopular, they would think that Republicans would be just as ahead. But the way it's been going throughout most of Biden's presidency is the generic ballot has been very close, but there's a lot of undecideds in it. Yeah. So which could go either way.
So what's the current numbers at for us, Jared, if you can lay it out?
The current numbers about Republicans +3.
Republicans plus
3.5.
3.5 points.
When Biden's numbers could be -12, -13, the Republicans are only ahead by single digits in the generic ballot.
So what you're telling us here, Jared, is that there is a gap between Biden's disapproval and voters' willingness to vote for Republicans.
Some people may not like what Joe Biden's doing, but they also would never vote for Republicans.
Yes. And as much as I hate to see it, in a lot of suburbs and a lot of areas, specifically with suburban white women, Republicans have left those voters with a bad taste in their mouth after the Trump years. Because I do think, from my experience, Trump brought a lot of new voters to the table, such as disillusioned workers from the Midwest, old labor union workers, people who worked at car factories, a lot of minorities. You remember Trump's vote with the Hispanic community went up 10%.
He did improve with Hispanics, but Hispanics overall still overwhelmingly Democratic.
But it moved in the it went from I think 28% to 38%, right?
Something like that. But it's a lot more in certain areas like Miami, South
Texas and Miami. And as we both know, in Florida, what do you have to say to defeat a Democrat in Florida, as the old saying goes?
About Florida?
Yeah. What do you have to say?
Florida's it looks pretty grim for the Democrats.
But what do you have to say to defeat them? What's the one thing you have to call a Democrat?
If you call a Democrat a socialist,
I don't think that's a good strategy for Republicans. I don't think we should just be calling everything we think is bad socialism. Because, let's face it, public schools funded by taxpayer money. Police departments funded by taxpayer money. Right? Medicaid, Medicare, programs, social programs. And what? Is that not socialism? That is socialism. So guess what, Americans? We do have socialism. So the only thing you're competing on is what segments of industries you want privatized or public, right?
Well, there's social programs, but it's very bad to call yourself a socialist because people, if they see you calling yourself like a democratic socialist, you should never put that label on yourself. People hate socialism, no matter if the programs are social programs. Socialism is still a toxic ideology to most people.
So let's say we remove ourselves from the very unique environment of South Florida, aka Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach, South Florida with the huge Cuban Hispanic population. What would you say about other parts of the country, such as the Midwest or New York? Do you think that there's any bonus that a Democrat can get from calling themselves a democratic socialist or a socialist? Any at all in some specific areas?
I don't think socialism is going to be a winner anywhere. I think it's a pretty toxic label to use wherever you are. Even if you're in an area that a Democrat can't lose in, a Democrat should not be associated with socialism. Okay. They shouldn't be attaching the party to it. Mm-hmm. They should avoid it at all costs.
Do you believe that it can only hurt, or it can hurt and then sometimes not impact?
I don't think it'll help, or it may have no impact. I mean, so I don't think that there's no areas where it would help. Like you may have some very online people, maybe online young people who will call themselves socialists, so they hate
touch grass. They haven't touched grass in 5 years.
Those people they may be very loud on the internet, but those people are not very.
You don't see them in real life. You never see those people. They haven't touched grass in years. COVID started, and they haven't even felt the feeling of grass in ages, right? So, do you think in a district like the Bronx district, which AOC represents?
Well, those kind of districts, a Democrat, no matter what, if they have the Democrat by their name, they're always going to win.
So the socialist label doesn't impact.
It doesn't matter it's not going to make a Democrat lose New York City.
Okay. That makes sense.
It's way too democratic for a Democratic to lose.
Okay. So yeah, that's good. Good talk about socialism. Now let's switch to the 538 congressional ballot. So 538, it shows a bit of a different picture here. So tell us about the numbers.
538 is a point more in favor of Democrats. So Republicans are ahead by just over 2 points on 538. Versus 3.5 points on Real Clear.
Okay. So you'd say, it's about 1.2% less advantageous environment for the Republicans. Now, again, we should mind you that the first time that they started polling, April 2nd, 2021, a little over a year ago, Democrats had a plus 4.3 advantage. Why do you think we've had such a dramatic shift, even on 538, of about 6 points to the right?
Well, back then, President Biden was much more popular. So even as he gets more unpopular, even though the generic ballot doesn't completely go with his approval, it does to an extent. If he's a super unpopular, the Republicans may gain a little bit, but it's not like a 1-to-1 thing. Well, what are your thoughts on the generic ballot?
Well, let's just say I'm a very happy camper. I think that this proves that I honestly think they're up by more than 2.3%. I think that generically polls usually underestimate Republicans by an average of about 1 to 3 points. Would you say so? In every election we've seen, most elections have.
I would say it varies. You could go back and find elections that underestimate Democratic vote.
But more often
More
than
recently, it seems that they underestimate the Republican vote.
Yeah. So
But
I think the real advantage is somewhere between 3 and 5 points.
I think the real unknown is where the undecideds go.
Exactly, because they're
There's a lot
in
of
these
them.
polls we still see
They're not at no one's over 50%.
exactly. Like, I think at this point in 2018 there was way less undecideds.
Yeah, Democrats were ahead by 8 points in 2018.
It was like 48% to 40%, right? So there were a lot of voters that were still, they had made up their minds at this point in 2018. 2022, depending on if Joe Biden or Republican members of Congress and Senate and candidates play their cards right, these voters are up for grabs. And they will take whoever shows them who can give them a better way of life. Because let's be real, we're living through a very tumultuous time right now, aren't we, Mr. Jared
say
Stein?
so.
We got wars, we got a virus, global pandemic, rising catastrophic food prices and gas prices. It's not looking too good, and it's not really reflecting good on the president you voted for.
Well, a lot of these things are worldwide problems. See, a lot of voters don't understand that. They think that if the gas prices are going up, then it's the president's fault. They think the president's setting the prices.
Well, again, Biden is choosing to sanction Russia, isn't he?
Well,
He
Biden's
could choose
also,
to not sanction Russia.
He's also pulling oil from strategic reserve from the reserves. He's doing a lot.
And who filled those strategic reserves? Who filled them?
It's been filled for a year.
Yep. I think we both know who filled them up. But okay, Jared.
I think it's been filled. For years they've been. Energy is produced under both Republicans and Democrats. One president doesn't have a control over the gas prices.
Okay. So, I think we've gone over enough on the general statistics of the country. So you want to move to specific states now, Jared?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
Let's do it. Let's go to Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Okay. So,
Specifically the Senate.
Senate, correct. And the reason we're both very interested in the Senate race, aren't we, Jared?
Yeah.
Is because there is a competitive Republican primary and
a Democratic primary, and the general election is probably competitive.
Very competitive.
So,
there's nothing in this election. You can't. There's nothing. There's nothing solid or likely about this election. It's been. There's been candidates dropping out, candidates rising in polling, candidates falling in polling, and me and Jared have actually talked about this election for quite a long time, haven't we, Jared?
Yeah.
It's
very closely divided state.
Yes,
Very
I think it's a perfect. I think it's almost a perfect summation of the country, Pennsylvania, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
The North is literally the North. The South of the Pennsylvania, you could consider it like the South. Mm-hmm. The West is almost like the Midwest, and the East is basically New York State.
They have Philadelphia, there's Pittsburgh, and there's a lot in the middle they call it Pennsyltucky in the middle.
Exactly, right? So, do you want to go over your truly great Democratic primary? That's going so well.
Yeah, we got Fetterman and Lamb primary.
Okay. Democrat primary first. Okay, let's talk about it.
Well, most polls and they're indicating that Fetterman's ahead. And me personally, I would really hope to see Lamb pull it off because I believe that Lamb would be a much stronger candidate for the general election. Because I think Fetterman has a lot of baggage with him, including his incident with pulling a shotgun out on an unarmed black person, and there's just a lot of very bad things about Fetterman. He's very unprofessional. I don't really think voters will like that. He thinks that they will, but I don't think that's very
Fetterman,
positive for him.
That guy is a joke. He is a meme. And in the good words of a guy I very much look up to, Red Eagle Politics. I know he doesn't like him, but Twitter politic bro, not an elected bro. He said Fetterman, the big mistake with Fetterman is people think big guy equals safety. Big dude is not safe. Big dude is dumb. Okay? And besides that, let's just look at the polling average on Wikipedia. Because Wikipedia, I'm just going to be straight up with you guys. Wikipedia is not a super trusted source because they include many inside campaign polls. But hey, if you want to get it closer to... Because nothing we say here is complete or it's more speculation. So for us to use Wikipedia, I think is admirable, and I don't think we're doing anything wrong.
Most polls of the Pennsylvania race so far have been internal. Like, there hasn't been a lot of public polling.
Exactly. So all we have to go off is these paid internal campaign pollsters, and I think that's okay because we are into statistics. We're statista bros. You know what I'm saying?
It's still data to look at, even if you don't know 100%. Like,
exactly. So let's go down to the Fetterman, Lamb, and Street and Kenyatta over here. No, Arkush. Arkush
Arkush already dropped out.
Arkush dropped out. Oh, yeah, I see it. Yeah, Arkush and Street dropped out, so it's just Kenyatta. It looks like
I think Street endorsed
he's zoomed
Lamb.
left off a cliff. Huh?
I think Street endorsed Lamb.
Oh, and who did, do you know who Arkush was?
I don't know that Arkush endorsed anyone.
Okay. So currently, as we see it currently, it looks like Fetterman is just over 40% in the primary polling, and Lamb is around 17%. So more than twice as much.
One thing that's interesting, there's also a lot of undecideds even in the Democratic primary. Even if Fetterman's at 40%, like, you don't know where the other voters are going to end up being. Like, there is a debate tonight. There's some things that could affect the race, but even if Fetterman does have the lead in most polls.
And what do you think about if either one were to win? Tell me the difference in what you think their electability will be in the general election.
It's probably pretty similar with both. There's probably not a huge difference, even if there is a small difference. But in a state like Pennsylvania, the smallest of differences could be the difference between winning and losing.
Okay.
So they may be tied to the national environment. However, if Republicans are doing well in the generic ballot, then they're more likely to win Pennsylvania.
Of course, it's one of those states that can kind of just go either way, can't it?
But I think Lamb, who he's won a lot of very competitive races in very red districts, and I think that he would be the most competitive candidate, or most likely to win as a Democrat.
Yeah,
he doesn't have much history of.
He even beat the old leading candidate, Sean Parnell.
Yeah, he ran against him in his old district.
Won by a very slim margin, about 10,000 votes.
It was a district that voted for Trump by 19 points, and then he won it.
That's weird. Mm-hmm. How did he get all these Trump voters to vote for him?
Yeah, Lamb is just he has a lot of electoral talent.
Looks like he has better luck with Republicans than Democrats right now, isn't he?
He doesn't seem to be polling too well, or I haven't seen a poll with him ahead.
I remember a few months ago he had a dead cat bounce somewhere around, I think, October, November, and you're like, he's going to get it. He's going to get it. It never happened.
The trend, you never know. You never know until the voters actually vote in May.
Yeah. And here's my opinion on the Democratic primary of Pennsylvania for how will it impact the general election. Because, of course, I don't really care. I want to beat either of them. But I think it's very tough because I think Connor Lamb is your typical corporate, corrupt centrist who will cow to the party line, whatever happens. And Fetterman is sort of more of like a Bernie Sanders type Democrat. Was he endorsed by Bernie? I think he was.
He was for lieutenant governor. I don't think Bernie endorsed him for the Senate.
He might endorse him soon, but
I think it would be a negative if Bernie did endorse him because I don't think Bernie's very popular.
Yeah, because Biden won Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Biden won Pennsylvania, but barely, like by 1%.
In the primary?
Oh, in the primary, easily, yeah.
Yeah, but what about in 2016 against Hillary? I think
Hillary won it in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
In the primary.
So my opinion is I think Fetterman, a big dude equals safety, whatever that is. So I think on a personal level, I think Fetterman is like, if there was no money in politics, Fetterman might do better. Maybe because he seems more like down to earth. But I think Connor Lamb, the thing is, I think Fetterman would scare off a lot of these big money donors, right? I think a lot of people.
Well, right now, Fetterman's actually he raises more money than.
But I think in a general, there would be more industry sectors willing to donate. A lot of people would be scared off of, because do you know what their positions on fracking are potentially?
I don't know that any of them have positions on it.
Because I don't know if. Because fracking is a big deal.
Yeah, if you're against fracking in Pennsylvania, then it could hurt you.
Yeah, remember how quick Joe Biden walked that one back. in 2020, right?
Yeah, he would.
We'll end fracking. I mean, only new fracking. I mean, we're not doing any canceling. We're actually going to do more fracking permits than the Trump administration. Whoops.
Well, Joe Biden's smart. He wants to win in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So
if you don't win, then nothing matters.
Yeah. Okay. So now you want to get into...
You want to get the Republican Pennsylvania primary?
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
What are your thoughts on that?
So here, I think the number one story of the Republican primary is, I think Sean Parnell was good, and I think he was probably the best option from what I knew about him. He's a veteran. He seemed to be good on all or most of the issues, and he dropped out due to a scandal where he lost, he lost the ability to see his children and something with his ex-wife. So he had to drop out due to a scandal. And after that, I think Oz announced like literally less than a month after that happened. He saw his window of opportunity, and it's been between Oz and McCormick ever since then. And from what I've seen of McCormick, I do not trust that guy more than I can spit. He seems like a globalist. He seems like he wants to sell American jobs and put them in other countries. He seems like your generic rhino Republican who's going to say whatever it is to get elected and get in there and do nothing. Now, I do have some reservations about Oz because Oz is an unknown quantity. He doesn't seem to, he just doesn't seem to have that much of a good record. But again, Trump in 2015, what were we saying about Trump? Unknown quantity, TV figure, liberal on social issues. He was holding a LGBT flag at the RNC. Right? So these are all things that are very interesting. But I do think unknown quantities are better than these shills who are just going to stay in there and do nothing. I'd rather have Oz who might shake things up and see what happens. And it looks like Trump also made that decision. And the fact that Sean Parnell endorsed McCormick is very suspicious to me. Why would you endorse McCormick, Sean? This guy's a total rhino, globalist. Why? It doesn't make sense. You're good on the issues. Is he your buddy? I don't know what it is, but I think there were some other good candidates such as Sands or Barnett. But the problem is these people weren't polling that well. Have you been paying attention to the Republican primary at all?
I have a bit. And lately the polls have been showing before Trump endorsed Oz, the polls showed that I think McCormick was taking a lead. And then Trump endorsed Oz, and then I think Oz is now catching back up. Maybe Oz is ahead now.
Yeah.
A Trump endorsement is probably pretty powerful with Republicans in Pennsylvania. So that's going to probably give him a big boost. Yes. But for me, I think either one of them they're both Republicans. If either one of them wins, then they're a vote for Mitch McConnell to be the majority leader. And if Democrats don't win it, though, it would be very difficult. It would be much more difficult to keep the Senate majority. Which again, the only thing that matters to me, the Democrats control the chamber. So,
and that's where we differ.
They both look the same to me. They both look like Republicans.
That's where we differ because I'm gonna be honest. I'd rather have 51 really good Republican senators have the Senate than 57 of bad ones. I'd rather have good Republicans in there who maybe a slim majority, but they'll do what the Republican voters want them to do, than 57 full of people like Murkowski and Collins and Mitt Romney, all these rhinos who voted to impeach Trump. I mean, what's the point of they might as well just switch their allegiance to being a Democrat, right?
See, if there was just one more Republican in the Senate, then Mitch McConnell would have full control over what gets voted on.
Yeah, not sure I like that too much. Still better than Chuck Schumer, but Mitch McConnell. Cocaine Mitch.
For me, at all costs, we need to keep at least 50 Democratic senators.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
Yeah, and I'm here to stop that. So let's go. So overall, let's see electability options for the Republican primary. Do you think McCormick or Oz would fare better in the general election, or is it more or less the same?
It's more or less the same. That's more or less tied to the generic ballot, probably. But between Oz and McCormick, I don't know who. I really don't know who would be more easy to beat.
So would you say they're probably around the same?
To me, they're the same, but maybe there's something more to them. I mean, I don't know everything about them.
Yeah, for me, I don't know.
They're Republicans. I don't want either of them winning, but
I think there's a clear distinctions you can make between Fetterman and Lamb.
Yeah, I feel like Lamb is much stronger
On the Democratic side, of course.
He has a history of winning difficult races. And Fetterman, he's a big unknown.
Wasn't he a mayor or something?
He was a mayor, yeah.
In like some
very small town, with a few hundred people that would vote. But, Fetterman reminds me of some other guy. His name was Iron Stash. He ran in Wisconsin in 2018. He was kind of a tough dude looking.
Big dude.
Yeah.
Safety.
He kind of give that persona of I'm for the people. I'm a working people's candidate.
Yeah, the worker.
And then he ended up, he was very unprofessional, like Fetterman. There's a lot of parallels between Fetterman and Iron Stash. And Iron Stash, of course, he lost very badly in a district that Democrats could have won in 2018. So I think that history could easily repeat itself with Fetterman in Pennsylvania. I think Fetterman, maybe some people see him as being electable, relatable
or safe.
And, he's unprofessional, and some people may.
He's laid back. He's in his office like this, right? Yeah. He's like, talk to me.
Yeah, he wears shorts to professional events. He's very unprofessional. That he makes it a personality trait to be unprofessional. I think that would be a detriment to him in the general.
It could be. I can somewhat agree with that. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think they both have their ups and downs.
Possibly.
I think that. Okay.
Who knows? Maybe Fetterman's just very electable. Maybe he'll win.
Yeah, maybe.
Very possible.
I hope not. But
if Fetterman is the nominee, I would certainly hope he would win.
So no matter what, you'll still back him.
Oh, of course. If whoever the nominee is,
we'll talk to him in like 3 months after the primary. He's like, I love Fetterman. He's so cool. Yeah, big dude is safe. I love big people.
If Fetterman's the nominee, then I would go hard for him. I would,
bruh. Okay.
But I hope he's not the nominee. But if he is, I want him to win.
Oh, dude, what do you think about? But it's so weird because they're like literally the opposite type of men.
Fetterman and Lamb.
Yeah, they're like They're like
Lamb's very professional.
He's like a tall, slim. What was he in the Marines or the Navy or something? Right? He's very professional. He talks to the reporter. He's like, "Oh, this is what we got to do," and then Fetterman lays back and he's like, "This is what I got to tell the people of Pennsylvania." It's a very different vibe they give off, and I tend to like more down to earth people, but I think you like more like professionalism.
I like professional. I think
me too. I like professionalism too, but I think down to earth is a really good quality.
I think people can sense a fake. I think there's a fakeness to Fetterman. Like he almost goes too unprofessional. Like it doesn't seem natural to me.
Yeah, and I could certainly say that the professionalism comes very, very naturally.
Even if you look at Trump,
Lamb.
Trump he's not professional, but he wears a suit.
He wears a suit and a tie.
He
right?
looks professional. Yeah. I mean, he presents himself professionally. He doesn't go around in shorts.
He says, "CNN, you're fake news." Now that is different.
He's repulsive, but he's not.
Nah, Trump run in 2024. You have the best chance out of anyone.
Maybe true.
Maybe true. We'll talk about that some other time. But you ready to talk about Ohio?
Sure.
Okay. So what do you know about the Democratic side on Ohio?
The Democratic side is very simple. It's only Tim Ryan.
Yeah, Tim Ryan. He's leaving. His district was gerrymandered to all hell.
Unfortunately. Even though the Ohio Supreme Court kept striking down the Republican gerrymanders, that the Republicans somehow ran the clock, and they get to keep their gerrymandered map likely for the 2022 election.
Yeah, and we'll get to that very soon about gerrymandering, specifically in Florida. But yeah, I remember they submitted the map a few months ago. It got struck down, and the Republicans released a slightly less good map.
Basically the same thing. They just keep. Maybe they make a small change, but it's basically the same thing that could give them 13-2 advantage, possibly.
Yeah, yeah. No, totally.
In a state that Republicans have the advantage in, but they're not. It's not a 13-2 advantage.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Republican side. So the biggest names here, I'd say, are Mike Gibbons, Mendel, Timken, Vance, and Dolan. So, what do you know about any of these people?
I know that Trump endorsed Vance. I hear he's crazy. I don't really know much about him. I just know he's crazy. I hear all these people are crazy. Like this Josh Mandel guy, he's
crazy.
He says these outlandish stuff online, and
Yeah, he's weird. He's a weirdo.
It's kind of sad what he does. Like, he does all this stuff to get Trump's attention. Then Trump doesn't even endorse him. Like,
yes, Trump literally spited him. He said, "You goofy ass dude. You didn't even support me in 2016. You didn't support me in 2020. You were out there every day on Mitt Romney's campaign, but you couldn't even show up." He goes into a hole every time Trump is run for president, and then now he wants to come out and get Trump's support. And Trump said, "I see that." Now, J.D. Vance, it's a bit of a different story. What do you know about J.D. Vance?
I really don't know much about J.D. Vance other than he's a very bad man.
I think he's a very good man. Recently. So J.D. Vance is an what you would call never-Trumper. Can you inform our audience on what a never-Trumper is?
Well, a never-Trumper is someone who claims to be a Republican, but they're just against Trump. So they may support other Republicans, but they don't like Trump.
Anything but Trump. They've become disillusioned with Trump in their party, and they want some more moderate people, such as like Mitt Romney or something. I think J.D. Vance, he was a former never-Trumper. He would even say I think he might have voted for Hillary or that guy, the Mormon guy from Utah. Really? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Evan McMullen.
Yeah, Evan McMullen. I think he might have voted for him. And recently, I think he converted to Catholicism. He's become a Christian man, and it seems like he's flipped on all of his issues, but it seems much more of a natural flip than Josh Mandel. And let me just tell you about this primary. This whole primary just seems like the lesser of five evils. I don't really see any like straight up good people here.
I see all evil.
Yeah. But I think of all the people, I think J.D. Vance is the way to go. And even before Trump's endorsement, that's what I was thinking. I think this is the way to go. This is our guy. I mean, it's better than all these people. I think Jane Timken, do you know what happened on her endorsements page, what she did?
What did she do?
She posted, on her endorsement list, she posted a picture of herself with Trump. With no explanation.
Very manipulative because she could be in a picture with him, and then under the endorsement page, it's very, Trump didn't obviously endorse her, but
obviously.
people will look at it and say, "Oh, Trump endorsed her."
Exactly. And so the campaign got very mad at her for that, and maybe he would have endorsed her. And that left a sour taste in Trump's mouth. You don't want to pretend that someone endorsed you when they obviously didn't, because you open holes for yourself. You open you open people to fire at you, because you did something that was clearly fraudulent and you lied, right? And I think we can both agree that faking endorsements is always wrong. Would you agree with that, Jared?
I would say not being authentic is always the bad way to go.
I agree. Authenticity.
People can see it.
Yep.
That's why Josh Mandel, he's not authentic.
Did you see that picture where he's like, "Look, guys, I'm not racist," and he posted a picture of himself with like a bunch of black dudes.
He photoshopped himself, I think.
With like 10 black dudes.
Yeah, I think it was a Photoshop picture too. He put his face on
so fake.
And his hands were black. And he put his face on another picture on another person.
And you know what's so funny? Doesn't it look like the picture of the girl with all the black dudes around her? The little blonde girl. And they're like all behind him, like hunked over him, and he's that little creepy smile he has. Man, that's so funny. Anyways, Josh Mandel, what a joke. We can agree. What a joke this guy.
All of them are jokes. If Ohio is to become competitive, then all of them are doing their best they can to help Tim Ryan win, even if Tim Ryan's not likely to win because it's Ohio. But
I think Tim Ryan has a chance.
All these people aren't helping themselves.
I think he has a chance, but he'll probably end up losing by something like 5 points or something.
Probably. He'll probably be the best Democrat performing in Ohio.
Probably, because what do I call it? He's kind of shifted to the center.
He's kind of like Sherrod Brown, their other senator.
Yeah. Which actually won in 2018, despite Mike DeWine also winning. But it was along with the blue wave environment. And speaking of waves, you want to start with Alabama and then we get finally to Florida?
All right.
Okay. So as we know, Alabama is not necessarily known for any Democratic senators, even though recently we did have a fluke in 2017. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, we had the Republicans nominated a child molester, Roy Moore. And then
I'm not sure I agree with that, but there were allegations.
I would say he is. And then Democrats ran a great campaign, and a lot of Republicans stayed home. And by a very slim margin, Doug Jones ended up becoming the senator for Alabama.
Yeah, from 2017 to 2020, right? and he ended up losing by a landslide.
Yeah, which was expected because
to Tommy
Tuberville. Even if that election were held in like 2018, if Roy Moore was a candidate, he would have still won because this was a special election.
Yeah, and, very low turnout.
If people didn't really turn out for this election, like if it's a regular scheduled midterm, even the Democrat would never have a chance to win.
Now, I do want to say this election at the time, it made me very mad, but it did give me a lot of hope because it just proves to you that in any election, Republicans can even win in a state like New York.
I wouldn't go that far. I would say in special elections.
Yeah, like a special election. Happen. That's what I'm saying. Like very rare moments, you can see flukes like this happen, right?
But
like
definitely not in a November regular scheduled election.
Yeah.
A Republican's not going to win New York in a November election. Democrats not going to win in Wyoming. These are things that are just impossible.
Yeah, most of the time. I would agree. Okay, so we got to Alabama here. So there's 3 major people running.
Yeah, if you want to talk about those people.
So we got...
I don't know much about them, but you can tell us.
Let me pull it up here. I think it's Katie Britt, Mo Brooks, and Michael Durant, if I'm not mistaken right here. So... let's see here. So the Alabama Senate race. Okay, let's see the polling here. Okay. So currently in the lead, we have Durant. We have Mo Brooks, who I guess his campaign completely collapsed from 60% all the way down to almost 10% there. Wow. Almost 15%. Just complete collapse.
Sad for him.
Mo Brooks. I feel bad because I think he was the guy. I think Trump should have stuck with him. I think he was the guy. And number one for Republicans, we cannot have Katie Britt. She worked with the Alabama Department of Corporations. She's flooded with all this agriculture money and everything. It's just sad. It's sad if she gets elected. So I know you're not a Republican, but what do you think about this primary? And who do you prefer to win?
I don't have very much of an opinion on this primary. Again, it's a Republican state. It's going to elect a Republican, and which, either way, I see all Republicans. As I said, all Republicans, they're mostly the same to me.
Do you have a preference?
Maybe Katie Britt. And maybe it would be nice to have another woman in the Senate. I mean, if anything, she'd be a Republican, but it's not like it matters much. But maybe to have more of a gender balance. Maybe that's a positive.
See?
If there's any positive to get from
identity politics with this guy, Mr. Jared Stein. Okay.
There's no positive of a Republican in office, but maybe we could get something. If there's a woman, the Senate could be more equal.
Yeah. So I honestly think if Mo Brooks is just not electable because Trump removed the endorsement, I don't think Trump should have done it. But Trump has an ego. And clearly he saw Mo Brooks was collapsing in the polling, so he went ahead and pulled the plug. I think he pulled the plug too early. I think Mo Brooks could have definitely come back. And he is the anti-slab. There was even a leaked video of him talking about how members of Congress are literally bought. Their committee assignments are literally bought by lobbyists. Our establishment is corrupt, and Mo Brooks was out here calling it out, right? And Michael Durant... I'm suspicious of him. I think he's better than Katie Britt, but I remain suspicious because he's flooding in a lot of PAC money associated with Mitt Romney, some Rhino Republicans, although not as bad as Katie Britt, who's flooding in McConnell money, But, we'll have to see, right? We'll have to wait and see.
Yep. Okay. I just know that Trump doesn't like supporting losers, so if he sees that someone he's supporting is losing, he'll abandon them.
Okay.
Maybe that's why he abandoned this guy.
Now, our special session. Now we got to the fun part. The new Florida map.
It's a disaster.
Right off the bat, it's a disaster. Designed by the great governor, Ron DeSantis, best governor, America's governor, right? Wow. What a beautiful map. Look at that. Oh, isn't that pretty?
That's not pretty.
That is so pretty. Look at all that red.
What I see is black voters being denied their representation.
So what are your problems? What's your quarrels with this map here, Jared?
Well, black voters in Tallahassee and Jacksonville, this splits them up. They no longer have representation in Congress.
Wow. And that's so horrible, huh?
It is, but black people deserve a vote.
But do you think that code for more black districts was just as code for we want more Democrat districts?
No, black communities deserve to have their voices heard.
Yeah,
If they support the Democrat, then that's it.
But I agree, but don't you think that many Democrats can take advantage of their vote to just create majority blue districts that will never flip Republican ever?
No, I think it's in fairness to have all communities represented.
So do you think white people should have their own
They already do. There's already plenty of districts for white people.
But what about if white people are the minority in a state? What should happen? If white people are a minority, should there be specifically designed voting rights district for white people?
No, I would say no, because
So only blacks, browns, and Asians.
white people have always had representation.
But I'm saying
There's never an
if
issue
we become
with
a minority in the future, do you think we should just say, "Oh, we're never going to have districts for majority white people because we were like"?
Well, there's always going to be districts for wherever anyone is, but there should be.
So you think only blacks, browns, and Asians can have majority minority districts, but white people, when we're the minority, won't?
Well, I don't think white people are the minority. White people are.
When states where we become the minority, like in New Mexico, Mexicans are now at least a plurality in the state, and every district they designed is a plurality Hispanic district, no majority white district.
Well, that's one state, but it would be sometimes it's impossible to draw districts the way that would be most fair.
Yeah, so we do differ on the Voting Rights Act, but let's just go over some of these districts here. So we have. You want to go over the Orlando? Let's go over Tallahassee. Now that's my favorite part of this map. Look what he did to Florida's 5th. Ooh,
Hopefully
man.
the courts can strike this down, but I don't have that much hope because it's a very Republican court.
Yeah, so. And three of the 7 are his appointments.
By DeSantis.
Yeah. So look, he turned the 5th district from a D plus 21, and now it's the 4th district.
They chop it all up.
R plus 15, but it looks clean. It looks much cleaner.
See, cleanness doesn't matter. What matters is representation.
What matters is one more Democrat district.
Is communities of interest being represented.
That's his spin. That's my spin. So yeah, I like that. I like it. I don't think there's any point to have majority minority districts. Either have all races represented or none of them. I know you did.
Well, it's already been a lopsided majority for white people. Well, black people had 4 districts. Now it's down to 2 districts in Florida.
Yeah. Well, it happens sometimes.
Florida has 28 districts.
Yeah, that's 2 more, right? Or 1 more. And that
they added 1 district in,
and that went to Republicans. So okay, now you want to look at
it's definitely going to court, but
it's definitely going to court. But I think it will keep. I'm gonna hope.
You may be unfortunately right. But
so let's look at Tampa. So if you look at the Tampa area, they seem to have turned the districts in this area into red districts and flooded the 14th district with more black voters.
In the original plan, Tampa had 3 districts that Democrats could win. Now it's only 1.
Now it's 1, and even that district has been trending to the right. If you look, I looked at from 2012 to 2020, the district, I think it went from 72% Democrat to 60%, and Republicans raised their vote share from, I think, 29 to almost 40%. So,
well, Florida was one of the only states that shifted right in 2020. So
exactly, one of 6 states that shifted towards Trump. I think the others were Utah and maybe
even California, but by a point,
Trump
Trump
got
matters,
like 600,000 new votes or something like that.
Yeah, it's like Biden won California by 29 points and Hillary won it by 30.
Yeah, like very slight shift. It was mostly in like LA County and
it's like very blue areas getting slightly less blue.
Yeah, like if you look at our area in the Valley, we saw a lot of these Hispanic communities go from 80% for Clinton to like 60 or 70% for Biden, which is crazy, right? So you're starting to get a lot of these majority Hispanic areas, right? Low income areas that are now a third or even 40% are becoming Republicans. Why do you think that is, Jared?
A lot of them get pushed back by socialism labels, and there's a lot of factors that go into why people vote a certain way. A lot of Hispanics are culturally more conservative, but they're religious, more aligned with the Democratic Party. And sometimes they vote more towards their ideology.
Yeah.
It could go either way. Sometimes it's often that incumbents have a history of improving with Hispanics Obama actually improved with Hispanics in his second run from in 2012. He improved with Hispanics. Trump improved as the incumbent. It's been a history. Bush did the same thing. So it's been a history that incumbents improve with Hispanics. Mm-hmm. It could happen to Biden in 2024.
Yeah.
They could go the other direction. Or it could be a continuous trend to the right. You never know.
Yeah, I think Florida is zooming to the right. They're just making it happen. The Democratic machine in Florida has collapsed. Even in the past year, what did we see? Republicans have now finally gone ahead of Democrats in registered voters. What do you think about that?
In the state of Florida? I mean, when it comes to registered voters, a lot of people are very slow to update the registration. So it's a lagging indicator. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, Florida, you can't really deny that Florida's been trending to the right.
Yeah, it went for Trump barely in 2016. It went for Trump to 3 points.
And then to 3 points.
Yeah.
Even as the country moved to the left.
Yeah, the national environment shifted 2 points to the left. But
Florida went 2 points
to the right. So look at that 4-point difference from the actual country. It's insane, right? I think, Florida man, go crazy. Refrigerator Ron. Do you like Refrigerator Ron?
I don't know.
Ron DeSantis, Refrigerator Ron.
Refrigerator Ron.
Ah, that's different.
I do not like Refrigerator Ron or any form of Ron. If like 30,000 or 40,000 votes went the other way in 2018, this would not be a problem.
Not even that. I think it was even a tighter margin.
It was the tightest margin for the Senate by like 10,000, and then the governor was like 40,000.
Yeah, he won by a little bit more than Rick Scott did. Yeah, Rick Scott's kind of weird. I don't know about him. But he beat Bill Nelson.
It's very unfortunate that Rick Scott's there because having one more Democrat in the Senate would make the world's difference.
Yeah, especially when you got Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin chopping up Joe Biden's agenda. No. No Build Back Better.
The Florida Senate race 2018 turned out to be one of the most catastrophic outcomes.
Yes, but remember Andrew Gillum?
If Andrew Gillum
won, we would not have this problem. Please win for us, Andrew Gillum.
Thinking about it, if Andrew Gillum didn't win the primary, if Gwen Graham had won the primary in 2018, she may be governor now.
I don't think it was that much of an effect. I think Andrew Gillum was actually probably the best guy for the job, and he still lost. But in my opinion, when I remember watching that primary, I think he was probably the best person they got. But let's look at the Orlando area. So he also messed a little bit with I think it's the 7th district, Stephanie Murphy's district, who is now retiring. And her district shifted almost 20 points to the right. What do you think about that?
Well, the Republicans are going to draw the maps to get as many Republican districts and as few Democratic districts as possible. So with Ron DeSantis doing this horrible plan, it's not unexpected.
Wow.
It's a disaster.
And he shoved a lot more minority voters into the Val Demings district. Very, very well-known Democrat, Val Demings.
The Senate.
Is she the one? Yeah, she's running for Senate, right?
Against Marco Rubio.
Yeah. And Darren Soto's district is now super Democrat. So...
And we actually have Hillary Clinton likely won some of the Miami districts that Biden lost.
Yeah, so we saw a lot of shifting there. So Miami went from, I think, 2/3 Clinton to only barely over 50% for Joe.
Yeah.
Crazy what happened there. Just amazing. So overall, this map on 538, it adds 4 Republican-leaning seats and gets rid of 3 competitive seats. The reason that it's different, the numbers don't align, is because, of course, Florida got a new seat, and that seat was promptly handed over to Republicans. So what do you think about the overall outcome?
The overall outcome of Florida is a disaster for the country. And, it is kind of balanced out by New York Democrats being able to draw out some Republicans.
Yeah, man, you got New York. You got New York and Illinois.
I think overall the redistricting has been pretty favorable for Democrats. They've probably gained more than they lost, even if Florida is a disaster. But they have there's a lot of wins that Democrats have.
Honorable mention, drum roll please. The French presidential election. So, 5 years ago, same exact candidates. Marine Le Pen on the far right, and Macron, the left-wing social and right-wing economic ultimate centrist candidate. Tell me what you think about this race here in France.
Well, I don't pay much attention to races in other countries, but France, it would be, it's important that they would have stable leadership. So I would hope that Macron. It seems Macron is ahead in the polls, and he seems very likely to win. So I mean, that's probably the best outcome for the world.
Yes, and just like in America, there was a far left candidate named Mélenchon, who's kind of like France's Bernie, and a lot of this election depends on where his voters go, kind of like Bernie or bust here in America, isn't it?
Sort of, but it's more direct with this.
Yes, way more direct. So currently the polling average stands at about 54% for Macron and 46% for Le Pen. And that's down from, it was actually really close. It was only within about 3 points. She was at about 47% almost there. But she's gone down recently. Her polling has not improved since the runoff. And I don't know, well, not the runoff, the first round. This is the runoff. So, I mean, me and Jared have been talking a lot about this, and I think that in France, there's been a weird, just like across Europe, there's this weird reluctancy with voters to vote for far-right candidates, people who are strict on immigration, for instance. So, for example, in the election in 2002, Marine Le Pen's father, who started the party called the National Front, right? He ran against the then the president who won, and he was so right wing, and every voter from the left, the right, they all banded together and voted 83% for Le Pen's father. Now that's quite a victory, isn't it?
That is quite the victory,
because they united against the far right. So this has been the
landslide.
The key in France is that the center left, center right, far left always gets together to stop the far right from winning. Now we see his daughter, Marine Le Pen, go up in 2017, and Macron, I think, wins about 2/3 of the vote to her third. So that willingness of French voters to vote for far-right candidates doubled, right? It's still, he won a landslide, but it's, 2/3 isn't 80%, right? That's a big difference. And now the polling they're almost neck and neck, right? So clearly French voters are wearing off this reluctancy to vote for far-right candidates. And why do you think that there's this new rise of nationalism and far-right parties in Europe?
That's a pretty scary phenomenon, but, I mean, I can't say exactly why.
Do you think it has to do with the large increase in Muslim immigrants?
I really can't say what it could be. I mean, even in the U.S., with Trump, a lot of people are more inclined to vote for far right people. It seems to be a worldwide thing that the far right can do better in elections than maybe before.
Yeah, and that's it for our honorable mention. And thank you, Jared, for coming on today. It's been great, and we plan to continue to do this show more, aka the Roundup, the political polling politics podcast. An in-depth analysis of statistics
from a Republican and a hardcore Democrat.
Yep. As we say, we have, as you can see, we have Jared Stein in blue, Democrat on the left, and I'm Eugene Katrov on the right, the Republican. And we're signing off. Thank you guys. Have a good one.